Yo, stop whatever you're doing right now. Close TikTok. Put down your phone. Actually, wait, you're literally on your phone watching this, so okay, keep it open. But focus, because what I'm about to show you, it's gonna straight up mess with your head. There is a village in America. Right here, in the good old US of A, that most Americans have never heard of. It's not in Alaska. It's not on some island. It's in Arizona, and getting there, oh buddy, getting there is a whole entire thing. You can't drive there, no roads. You can't take a train. There's no Uber, no DoorDash, no same-day Amazon delivery, and none of that. To get to this place, you either strap on your boots and hike 8 miles down into the earth, or you hop on a mule, or, and this is the low-key baller option, you catch a helicopter if the weather plays nice and the tribe gives you the green light. But here's the part that really broke my brain when I first found out about it. Every single weekday morning, the United States Postal Service, yes, USPS, the same guys who deliver your Amazon packages and sends a mule train down into this canyon. 10 to 22 mules, one wrangler, mail on their backs, like it's 1887. This is Supai, Arizona, population 208 people, and it has been named, officially, by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the most remote community in the contiguous United States. And it's been there for over 1,000 years. Stick with me, fam, because what the Havasupai people have built down here and at the bottom of okay, so real talk, the hike alone is an experience. You start at the trailhead, which is already in the middle of nowhere, about an hour's drive from the nearest town. You park your car, you look over the edge, and you think to yourself, aight, here we go. The trail drops 2,000 feet in elevation over 8 miles. You're walking through layers of rock that are 500 million years old. 500 million years, y'all. The canyon walls around you are red and orange and cream-colored, and they've been carved by wind and water since before anything we'd recognize as life even existed on this planet. For the first few miles, it's dry, hot, dusty, the kind of heat that just sits on you. You're sweating through your shirt, your legs are burning, and you're starting to wonder if you made a terrible life decision. And then, and I'm not kidding, it genuinely feels like a video game glitch. The color changes. You round a corner, and suddenly, cutting right through the red rock, there is this water. This insane, neon, almost fake-looking turquoise water. It's like someone spilled a bucket of Caribbean Ocean into the middle of the Arizona desert. Your brain literally doesn't compute it at first. You stop walking. You just stand there. That's Havasu Creek, and that creek is the reason everything, and I mean everything, about this place exists. The name Havasupai, that's the name of the tribe. The nation, the people who live here, it literally translates to people of the blue-green. Water, that's not a nickname. That's not a vibe. That's a geographical fact that has been true for 1,000 years. So here's the science, and I promise it's actually fire. Deep beneath the canyon floor, there's a limestone aquifer, basically a massive underground water filter. Rainwater seeps down through hundreds of feet of rock over years, sometimes decades. It picks up minerals along the way, specifically calcium carbonate, the same stuff the canyon walls are made of, and then it bubbles up as a spring right above the village. That calcium carbonate, that's what gives the water its color. It scatters light in a way that makes the water look like liquid turquoise, like someone dumped a bajillion Jolly Ranchers into the creek, and no photo. I don't care how good your camera is. I don't care if you've got the latest iPhone. No photo actually captures it right. You have to see it in person. The water feeds a series of waterfalls downstream. Havasu Falls, Mooney Falls, Beaver Falls. These aren't little trickles. Havasu Falls drops 96 feet into a pool so blue it looks photoshopped. Mooney Falls is even taller, 190 feet, straight down, hidden behind a tunnel carved into the cliff face that you have to climb through on chains bolted into the rock. And this water has been flowing uninterrupted since before Columbus, before the Pilgrims, before any of that. It was here before English was a language. It'll probably be here long after we're gone. The Havasupai have been drinking it, farming with it, living beside it, for longer than most civilizations have even existed. All right, let's back it all the way up, because the history here is deep, and honestly, it doesn't get talked about enough. Archaeological evidence puts the Havasupai in this canyon at least 800 years. Ego, 800 years. For context, that's before the Black Death wiped out a third of Europe, before the Aztec Empire was even founded, before Genghis Khan finished conquering Central Asia. These people were already here, farming corn, squash, and beans in the floodplain of Havasu Creek. Their oral traditions say they've been here even longer than that. And honestly, I believe it. Their lifestyle was low-key genius. In the summer, they stayed down in the canyon, farming, fishing, living off the land. In the winter, when it got cold and crops didn't grow, they climbed up to the plateau above, hunting deer, gathering plants, doing what they needed to do. Every spring, they came back down, like clockwork, for centuries. This wasn't just survival. This was a whole entire civilization. They had trade networks. They had ceremonies. They had a deep, specific knowledge of this land that took generations to build. They knew which plants were medicine. They knew the canyon's moods, when the creek would flood, when the springs would shift, when to plant and when to move. And then in 1882, the federal government showed up and said, "Cool canyon. We're gonna need most of it back." In 1882, the U.S. government formally established the Havasupai Reservation. The tribe had once ranged across nearly 1,000,000 acres, the canyon and the plateau above it. Their new reservation, 518 acres, inside the canyon. That's it. That's like telling someone who owns a whole city block that they can only live in the bathroom now, and the bathroom doesn't even have windows. Fast forward to 1919, the Grand Canyon becomes a national park. Big win for conservation, right? America's protecting one of its greatest natural wonders. Tour buses, gift shops, Instagram influencers standing on the rim with their arms out. The whole thing. For the Havasupai people, though, it was a gut punch. The plateau above the canyon, the one they'd been using for centuries, the one they hunted on every winter, the one where their sacred sites were, and that plateau became part of the national park. And just like that, they were banned from it, completely locked out. For 56 years, the Havasupai could look up from the canyon floor, see the rim of the plateau they'd called home for generations, and not be allowed to go there. They literally could not set foot on land their ancestors had walked, since before anyone here had a word for national park. Think about that for a second. You can see your ancestral homeland. It's right there above you every single day. You can watch tourists drive up to it in their rental cars, take photos, buy postcards of it, and leave. And you can't touch it. That's not just an economic loss. That's a spiritual wound. The Havasupai's relationship to their land isn't like, "Oh, that's a nice place we like to visit." Their identity, their ceremonies, their entire way of understanding the world, it's inseparable from specific places, specific rocks, specific trails, specific views. And all of that had been fenced off. Inside their 518 acres, life went on. Because what else do you do? Kids were born. Elders passed. The creek kept flowing. The mule trains kept coming with the mail. The village kept existing, stubbornly, beautifully at the bottom of the world. But the plateau, the winter homeland, and that was gone. And it hurt. In 1974, a small delegation of Havasupai tribal members did something that took serious guts. They packed their bags, flew to Washington, D.C., and stood in front of Congress. These weren't politicians. These weren't lobbyists with briefcases full of talking points. These were people from a village of 208 at the bottom of a canyon that most of the people in that room had probably never even heard of. And they stood up and they spoke. They explained what the loss of the plateau had meant. Not just in dollars and cents, though yeah. Losing their hunting grounds had real economic consequences. But more than that. They talked about what it means when your sacred places get taken away. When the land that holds your ceremonies, your stories, your identity, when that land becomes a tourist attraction that you're not allowed to enter. And Congress, shockingly, honestly, Owian listened. In January 1975, President Gerald Ford signed the Grand Canyon National Park Enlargement Act and buried in that bill in a move that honestly doesn't get talked about nearly enough in American history was the return of 188,000 acres of plateau land to the Havasupai Tribe. 518 acres became 595 acres overnight. The winter grazing lands came back. The hunting grounds came back. The sacred sites came back. The places where ceremonies had been performed, and would now be performed again, came back. Senator Barry Goldwater of Arizona, who had championed the land return, called it one of the most important pieces of legislation of his career. And this dude had a long career, so that's saying something. It wasn't the full 1,000,000 acres. It wasn't everything, but it was enough. It was a start. And for the Havasupai, it was a massive, hard-won W. Okay, let's talk about the mule mail situation. Because I cannot get over it, and I need you to fully appreciate how wild it is. Every single weekday, Monday through Friday, rain or shine, hot or cold, a USPS contractor drives out to the trailhead. They load up between 10 and 22 mules with mail bags. Each mule carries up to 200 pounds, carefully weighed and balanced so no side is heavier than the other, so the animal doesn't slip on a trail that is sometimes barely wider than the mule itself. Then the wrangler leads them down. 3 hours down, 2,000 feet of switchbacks, canyon trails, narrow passages through red rock walls. And then the mail gets delivered to the Supai post office, zip code 86435, the most remote zip code in the United States of America. And then, okay, this is the part that really got me. The wrangler unloads the mules and sends them back up alone, no rider, no one guiding them. The mules just go by themselves. Up 8 miles of canyon trail in 5 hours, because they've done this so many times that they know the route by memory, by scent, by the specific feeling of the trail under their hooves. They've been doing this since the 1930s, fam. Since before your grandparents were born, since before TV, since before McDonald's. The mule mail has been running continuously through World War II. Through the moon landing, through 9/11, through a global pandemic, just mules going down, coming back up. Every weekday, no cap. The Supai postmark even says mule train mail on it. People specifically mail postcards from Supai just to get that postmark. It's the most uniquely American postmark in existence. A reminder that in 2025, in the age of drones and AI and 2-hour delivery, somewhere in this country, a government contractor is still loading saddlebags onto mules and walking them into a canyon because there is genuinely no other way. So what's it actually like to live in Supai today? Like day-to-day life, the village has a school, a church, a small cafe, a trading post where you can buy basic supplies and stuff that, remember, had to be brought in by mule or helicopter. There's a lodge for tourists because yes, visitors are allowed with permits, though the tribe controls access tightly, and for good reason. These are their homes, not a theme park. Cell service? Spotty at best, non-existent at worst. Internet exists, but it's not exactly blazing fast. There's no traffic, obviously. No sirens, no car alarms. What you hear in Supai is the creek, the wind through the canyon, kids running around, horses and mules in the distance. The Havasupai Tribe manages tourism to the falls, and it's become a major source of income, but they're not just trying to maximize visitor numbers. They're trying to protect what they've got And what they've got is genuinely irreplaceable. The elders still pass down traditional knowledge. The language, Havasupai, is still spoken. The ceremonies continue. This isn't a community frozen in time for tourists to gawk at. It's a living, breathing, changing community that has survived displacement, land theft, cultural suppression, and a century of being told to just assimilate. And they're still here. 208 people. 8 miles from the nearest road. At the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Still here. I think about Supai a lot after visiting, not just because it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my life, though it absolutely is. I think about it because of what it represents. In a world where everything is optimized, where everything is appified, and Uberfied and delivered to your door in 2 hours, there's a village at the bottom of a canyon where the mail still comes by mule, where people still know every inch of the land because their great-great-grandparents knew it, where the water is the most otherworldly turquoise you've ever seen, and it's been that color since before the English language existed.
The Havasupai didn't survive 1,000
years at the bottom of the Grand Canyon by accident. They survived because they knew how to adapt without losing who they were, because they fought for their land legally, politically, publicly, and they won, because they chose to stay in one of the hardest to reach places on the continent, and they made it home. And maybe that's the most American story of all. Not the easy one, not the comfortable one, but the real one. The one that requires 8 miles of hiking and 500 million years of canyon, and a mule train that's been running since the 1930s. If you ever get the chance to go, and I mean really go, boots on the trail, permit in hand, do it. You'll understand something about this country, and about people that you can't learn any other way. I'm out. Drop a comment below if this blew your mind as much as it blew mine. And if you're new here, subscribe, because we do this kind of deep dive every single week. Peace.